Welcome to the AL.com film room. I'm Matt Scalisi here with Cole Cubelic, our Auburn football analyst. We're going to talk about Auburn's 34-7 loss to Georgia this past weekend. Cole, 2 straight losses for the Tigers, reeling a little bit here, trying to figure some things out. In your opinion now, watching this team struggle for the last 2 weeks, do we see any similarities in the 2 losses? What are sort of the recurring problems that you're starting to be able to notice?
No, it's not hard to figure out, Matt. A lot of it, unfortunately, are reoccurring problems. It's the same things. It's mistakes. Like we talked about a week ago, you don't turn the football over 3 times. And last week coming into this Georgia game, we mentioned it sounded elementary. It sounded really dumbed down a lot, and it sounded oversimplified. But I said turnovers would decide this game. Georgia had 6 coming into this game on the season. Auburn had 7 and 2 losses, 7 in their other 7 wins. So you really saw the differential of when Auburn turns it over too much, they tend to lose games. And when they don't, they find ways to win games. 3 turnovers to none, Auburn to Georgia. More penalties for this football team. We'll take a look and we'll see a couple of small issues as far as missed assignments go and maybe some busts. And when you compound those with the mistakes that Auburn's making by shooting themselves in the foot, you don't give yourself an opportunity to beat a good football team, which Georgia is.
Cole, we got a tie game here in the second quarter. This seems to be kind of the point where Georgia really started to take control of the game, I think.
Well, short yardage kind of comes down to toughness and physicality. And when we see the overhead shot here, we'll see most likely not lined up correctly. And you heard a couple of Auburn players come out during this past week and say some of those issues were not getting lined up correctly. Now, that just falls back on leadership. That falls back on preparation and guys going out with an understanding of what's expected of them. This is a pretty good Georgia offensive line, and obviously they have good backs. We know that. But you come up here and you've got your tight end to the right, so this will be the strength of your formation. And then 2 fullbacks in the backfield. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to just look at these 2 guys kind of uncovered here. And whether you want to call them star linebackers, safeties, whatever, I call these little dudes. And at the end of the day, I got big dudes versus little dudes right there. And you don't win that very often on 4th and 1. Now, if Georgia were to come out in this formation in a 2nd and 5 or a 3rd and 6, maybe you understand that type of personnel grouping. But to me, some mistakes were made, either recognizing personnel with tight ends and fullbacks, and also not recognizing that in short yardage, our alignment cannot be bunched up in the middle with no big bodies here out on the perimeter. So it's just really a nice job by Georgia's offensive line. We'll take a look at the right side of that line, really explosive coming off. You actually get pretty good push up the middle from that Auburn defense by Devontae Lambert. And you see right here as we run it back and take a look at this overhead shot again, you get pretty good push right here. Not bad at all. But this really gives you a great look at how you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I include this kid right here. 6 big bodies going really and truly on 4 little guys, 4 little dudes. I mean, I'll take that all day, every day. This alignment here cannot be correct. Ellis Johnson is much more competent than this right here. You can say, I don't like Ellis Johnson, and he's not doing a good job calling football games. I know Ellis Johnson. I've been around him. I like Ellis Johnson. And I can tell you right now, 100% in my mind, this right here is not Ellis Johnson.
That's not how they drew it up on the board.
0.0%. It's just, no. I don't know how else to explain it other than that's not real. That's not right. And you'll see when you don't line up correctly and somebody has the right call up against the incorrect call, this is what you get right here. An explosive play. Nice job, 73 up on a safety, Jonathan Ford. So you got 320 going on 180. You're not going to win this. Mincy, Thurisi, and Jonathan Ford taking on 3 offensive linemen, a tight end, and 2 fullbacks. Really? It's just, those are the kind of mistakes in a short yardage, critical situation right there. Like you mentioned, a tie ball game, a chance to make a big play on defense, and really and truly, you lose that play before the ball is snapped.
So we're going to see right here, Cole, a play where Auburn looking to Nick Marshall to move the ball on a 3rd and short, not able to do it here. Georgia recognizes what's coming and they're able to get the stop. What happens to break this down?
Well, the first thing that I see on this play, Matt, is kind of going back to a miscalculation of bodies, what we talked about before. It's kind of the same thing here. I see that 3rd and 3, and I see that we're going to bring Braden Smith in the game, so we're going to try to go big up front. And obviously, Brandon Fultz is right here. He had a nice game last week against Texas A&M, but really, where are the big bodies in the backfield here? I mean, I want my SEC leading rusher to try to get north and south and get me this first down. But this is kind of all I have. And we're going to get some jet sweep here, and that's going to be kind of your read as we look forward to how is Nick Marshall going to get this done. Now, again, short yardage, so we look up front and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe include 9 bodies in the box. So there's a lot going on in here. Your chances of getting 3 yards there are slim, which most likely is why you want to go zone read and try to get Nick Marshall out here on the perimeter. Now, you'll see this jet sweep come. Probably would end up being a nice call with only 1 defender out here on the perimeter. But we'll see how the play develops, and then we'll go back and kind of look at how and why certain things happen. You hope the jet sweep freezes your linebackers. It doesn't really in this situation. But as we go back and we kind of take a look here of how this play is going to work itself out, first and foremost, if you're an Auburn fan and you want a positive, here's your true freshman. Now, when he gets his hands on somebody, it's over. His issues come when he's in space and he's got a guy one-on-one and he just doesn't understand balance and how to be in control of his footwork and his balance just yet. But this is an obvious bright spot for Auburn down the road. Braden Smith, true freshman. I mean, he's riding his guy out of there. So that's a really nice job. But you'll see Chad Slade pull. He's going to get locked onto one linebacker. Now, this is the guy that you want to read right here. So if you're going to run that zone read, even if you're running it off the jet sweep, you hope you freeze this in man on the line of scrimmage, and he's got to come up and play that zone read or come plat and play the zone read. These two right here you hope are going to handle each other. They'll cancel each other out. But you'll see 2 linebackers kind of up in the hole here. I think the problem is you've got Brandon Fultz comes in the hole, and he's going to probably take the in man on the line of scrimmage when he should be up on a linebacker. Potentially that's your confusion, but at the end of the day, Auburn doesn't have enough to block as many defenders are there as you'll see one linebacker just going to walk free right past the block of Chad Slade. So most everything is handled, and then right there's 2 linebackers, not enough bodies. You see 11 and 62 kind of looking back, so some confusion there at the line of scrimmage. But again, I go to, and you see a pitch option there maybe late with Ricardo Lewis where they were going to look pop pass or something off that fake of the zone sweep. You don't really know exactly what the mindset was, but to me, on the front end, it looks like Georgia had the right defense called there. Too many bodies to be able to run that zone read in between the tackles. Now, Matt, this is another play that when we take a look at it, we're not in the huddle and we're not in meetings with these guys, so we don't know exactly what's called here. So keep in mind, a lot of what we talk about here is my perception, just what I see, what I think. It doesn't mean that I'm exactly right on everything, but you come up here and again, we see 2nd and 3, so we're obviously thinking run. I mean, it's the first thing that would come to your mind, especially with what Georgia was able to do in this game. Not really out of control yet at 17-7. And you got kind of a 4-man front, really a walked-up linebacker, so to speak, a lighter defensive end, kind of a hybrid guy that's going to be on the end. And what I see here is I see a linebacker walk up and blitz. I see this man have outside contain on a rush, so basically knowing that it's blitz. And I see quick penetration by the defensive line, which also tells me blitz. And then this doesn't look like a reaction to me. This just looks like he's coming. Now, in a run-fit situation, this linebacker is going to he's going to have B-gap contain right here. He's going to take on that fullback with his right shoulder and try to flush this running back inside towards the football. And you'll see the way that Chris Frost sort of tries to elude and use a little swim move on this fullback tells me that he feels like it's play action and it's blitz. He's not trying to take on this fullback. When you first watch it, you think to yourself, oh, how did he avoid that? Why would he do that? He's got to take that fullback on in the hole. It's a run. But then you watch it a few more times, and I believe that he's trying to elude this fullback and get into the backfield and maybe get to the quarterback. So we'll run it a few times. But right there, you see, it looks like a blitz, and then he's trying to kind of swim over the top of that fullback. And it is a draw play. So, it's a nice sell by Georgia's offensive line and Georgia's backs, but still, you got that fullback leading in the hole. You've got the blitzers coming on the outside. You see upfield right there by Elijah Daniel, 97, and that just really opens things up in between the tackles. Now, this could be something that, from a tendency standpoint, you saw second and short, a lot of throws. Maybe you thought that's something they were going to go to. My opinion is that was a design blitz. Georgia had a draw called, and really and truly, if that's the case, draw play is one of the perfect calls. Draw or screen against a blitz like that, a lot of times you'll see big plays, just like Georgia had there with Chubb. We'll see a play action here. You'll get nice protection. And you look at this front, really it's kind of a base front, really. 7 in the box. You see this corner's acting funny. He might blitz. He might be playing up to the line of scrimmage. He's obviously showing he's going to give you something with Sammy Coates right here. So we'll end up running a deep end, which obviously is a great call when you see all of this green right here. Plenty of space to operate. You could even probably make something happen over here if you really wanted to. You're getting man coverage down here, so you kind of mentally erase yourself from that. But the offensive line is going to give a good play action look. Chad Slade's going to pull out and take care of his guy. You'll see the protection, the pocket kind of open up for Nick Marshall on this play. He's got the time, but really and truly, one of the things that you saw in this game, whether it was Sammy Coates, whether it was C.J. Uzomah, guys making individual plays, pretty good reads by Nick Marshall, but he had some other guys step up and make some plays. The problem that I see with this play is when you kind of fast forward to it and you look at it, you really have 4 Georgia defenders blitzing here or rushing on the play, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll count the quarterback, 7 Auburn offensive players helping manage this pocket. So the fact that you can go 7 on 4 and still win that game downfield is pretty impressive to me. When we break it down, it comes down to a numbers game, and football is not what?
Yeah, it's not complicated.
It's not hard. Football is easy. So when you have this sort of a mismatch at the line of scrimmage from a numbers perspective, and you can still find ways to make plays down the field, I think that's a real positive and something that you can take away, sort of move forward to the next 2 weeks. Another positive takeaway here, Matt, and what we'll see is you'll see another jet sweep fake. Watch what that does to this linebacker right here. He's going to be forced to run, which really opens up the middle of the field right here. And you see those shoulders and hips pointed in. That tells you zone coverage. You got a little cushion down here. And you like, from a size perspective, this mismatch here. So if you want to attack the middle of the field, that's one that looks good to you. C.J. Uzomah on a smaller guy. But watch the pocket open up and develop nicely. Again, a play action. Slade pulls out, takes care of his man. And really, from a play action perspective, offensive line is going to do a pretty nice job. Now you see, again, only 4 blitzers, so you have to find something, 4 rushers. You have to go find something down the field. It's going to give your quarterback time to operate when you have 5, 6, maybe 7 guys on offense working the pocket, and you only have 4 rushers coming. Now, you think it's going to be hard to get open, but at the same time, it gives you extra time in the pocket for something to develop downfield and something to happen. So it just goes back and it shows you it's unfortunate how quickly certain games can get away.
Cole, Auburn goes back home this week. They're going to play Samford at home in this sort of annual tune-up that they do for the Iron Bowl. You know, what do you spend your time on this week? What do you prepare for? And you know, how do you get this team rebounded from what's happened the last 2 weeks?
Well, I think when you get a win, which we all expect Auburn will do Saturday, that's going to rejuvenate you, give you a little extra life, and kind of get you back in the positive mindset heading into the Iron Bowl. There will be some installation. There will be some film study of Alabama this week. Now, that might not directly happen with position coach and his players in a meeting room, but even if the guys don't know it, it's going to happen out on the field. They're going to work on some things. They're going to put in some new wrinkles. There's going to be some additions, maybe even some subtractions as far as where the focus wants to be heading into Iron Bowl week. And I expect to see some young faces pretty early. You think about kids, you know, Braden Smith, we talked about him. We praised him a little bit on this film today. He's redshirted, hadn't played a whole lot this year. You know, Jeremy Johnson's a kid that gave up his red shirt a year ago, hasn't had a lot of snaps this year. We've seen a little bit of Rock Thomas beginning to come on. So some of these guys who you know you're going to bank on next year, I think it's time to begin to give them meaningful snaps. Maybe not just in the Samford game, but moving into the Alabama game as well.
That's it for this week on the Film Room. Join us next week as we get you ready for the Iron Bowl.